Hey everyone. Today I'm going to show you the audio interfaces that I use to create my music and my content, and I'm even going to cover some past audio interfaces that I've purchased or almost purchased and why I'm not using them. A lot of these interfaces, I'm trying to direct this towards live streaming, which is something that's very important to me. So I want to go over the features that are important and my workflow and share my findings with you. There might be some software workarounds for some of the missing features, but I typically tend to stay away from any additional third-party software because it adds possible instability and also an extra layer of complexity because you're having to maintain two different things. And when you're doing streaming, you want things as simple as possible. Also, with the extra layer, that also can introduce additional things like latency. And basically you're adding an extra layer of latency to what you already have to deal with right now. So let's open up a discussion in the comments and let's talk about some of the missing features that you're looking for in audio interfaces, and also if there's anything that I'm missing with all this information, please let me know because I like learning new things. I'm going to go over these as far as what I've been able to find as far as research and talking with support and other things like that. But I'm sure there's a couple things that I've been missing with this, and there's a lot of people out there that know all the details for all of this. So let's go ahead and we'll get into some of the other details here. Just a warning, this is going to involve a whole lot of talk. One of the keywords is going to be latency. So if you don't care about latency and how it affects your recording, because a lot of people don't need to worry about it. It could be something where if you're not using virtual instruments, drums, or guitar amp sims, like models and things like that, if you don't need that timing where there's hardly any delay and everything just feels right. If you're not worried about that, I'm actually going to be talking about that quite a bit. Yeah, I'm definitely geeking out here, so get ready. This is going to be fun. Okay, let's go over some general features, or at least features that I'm looking for. I'm looking for stable drivers with low latency, which to me, that would be 5 milliseconds or less total latency would be really nice to have. Also looking for DSP for professional mix during a live stream. That would include channel EQ, compression, sound effects like delay and reverb. Loopback is another very important thing. So loopback to capture the desktop and application audio that outputs to channel 1 and 2 for live streams, which would be for OBS and video conferencing software. And for me personally, it's mainly for OBS for live streaming. Another feature that's very important will be firmware updates to add new features over time, and this helps to improve the product and also to basically add updates that users are requesting, and it makes something that's pretty decent and good and makes it absolutely amazing. Now I do have, of course, a wish list on here. This is stuff that would be just really nice to have, but in no way, it's one of those things that just at least want to throw some ideas out there so that if someone's listening, maybe they could incorporate this into a future product. This one is the Elgato Stream Deck integration, or some kind of customizable controls that can be programmed to improve workflow. And with the Stream Deck, it's this unit right here. You can customize all the different buttons to be certain things, and I think it would be awesome to actually have an interface that has something like this built into it. There might be some things out there, let me know, but I really love having that feature of being able to customize each individual button on here to show exactly what you want, and you can do key commands. You can do so much with it. It's really cool. Also, brick wall limiter on the main output bus to keep a live stream from clipping with minimal additional latency. And on top of that, another thing would be a bus compressor, and that would be to glue the mix on the main bus for live streaming. So typically how I do it is I go to the main bus, and then I would send it to the bus compressor first, tighten the mix, and then at the very end to protect everything on the output for OBS so I don't get any clipping or anything like that, I would have the brick wall limiter and you can boost up the signal with that and get a nice full mix and everything for people to listen to. Also, it'd be nice to find an easy way to use auto ducking to lower the music anytime a person speaks, and then it raises it when the person finishes. That's something in one of the last videos that came up because I was talking and doing some drums, and yeah, it would be nice to be able to do that. So basically, I'm looking for a setup geared towards a solo content artist, as just that's what I'm doing. That's easy to use and it's flexible enough to streamline the workflow of live streaming and making videos and recording music. So just all three of those things. Live streaming, you got to have everything right in front of you, ready to go at all times, and you can't have anything slowing you down. So that's why I'm asking for all these features, hopefully in either form or updates or a new product or things like that. This is the console application for the Universal Audio Aero interface, which is now the Apollo Solo right now. It's just a very basic interface. It has two XLR inputs on there on the back. There's also a high Z input and just two outputs on there. It has a couple benefits with it. I would say the best thing is that it's very solid drivers for it. It's Thunderbolt 4, so it's a very fast connection. A little bit faster than USB, so for latency, it definitely has low latency to it. It does have an option for loopback. What you can do is you can actually set this if you want to, where the everything that feeds into the console, into the application, will be sent out to the master bus on here. So if you go to menu here, go to view, settings. The way I had it set here is that the inputs 1 and 2 are monitor left, monitor right, and everything basically got pushed down. So all the high Z inputs, the virtual auxes and everything like that, I pushed them down, going from 3 on down. And then for the outputs, set the main output channel 1 as monitor left, channel 2 as monitor right. And you see I have virtual and 2 headphone outputs on here. And what that allows me to do is the microphone input, guitar input, all that kind of stuff would be mixed directly in this. You can set a virtual channel as well, which could be from, say, a DAW. And that way you can use that for background music, or if you're actually recording within that. It also has a DSP in here as well, so you can add a whole bunch of different things to it. That's just a tuner. You can do compression and everything, and all of these actually happen in real time. And you can see also I've used here the Neve preamp, which has just really good sound. I mean, these effects are top notch. They do cost a bit, and that's another thing we'll talk about in a minute here, but they are excellent sounding. And you can even do some guitar preamps, full amp simulation in here, where it does the preamp, the cabinet, everything all in one. So it's very, very nice setup. I highly recommend this one, the Pete Thorne PT100. It sounds really, really good. I've definitely like it. It has a couple basic effects in there too. Just a really top-notch guitar amp simulator. Okay, so definitely has some good advantages. Now, the drawbacks for this, and it's because, I got the very the most basic interface, which doesn't have a lot of inputs and outputs, but it's, it's a couple $100. You can look it up and see how much the price is right now. But if you step up to the bigger interfaces, it definitely, I would say, it at least doubles in price and goes up quite a bit from there. So, yeah, it's definitely a big investment, I would say, compared to other interfaces that are on this list. And that would have been a very big investment for me to do. And I would want to have everything work exactly how I would want it. Now, my biggest gripe is that, and it's not really a gripe, most people won't even notice this or have a problem with it, but what I wish people would do for live streaming especially is that it'd be nice if there was a way to do things like bus compression and limiting on the master main bus. And with this, you have the left and right, but there's no option for insert effects like you have on the other channels. Now, with the insert effects, especially on the master bus, I'm sure that introduces latency. But if you, I mean, just thinking about if you could add a precision limiter in there, and then you could do a bus compressor like an SSL or Neve or something like that on there to tighten that sound and give you that broadcast radio ready sound to a live stream, you wouldn't really have to do any processing, and you wouldn't be, you know, overloading OBS, you know, as far as the mixer goes. So you wouldn't have distortion or anything like that. But again, like I said, that probably adds latency to it. One workaround I did hear about is that you can use the virtual channels where you could add inserts. So you could do the limiter and the bus compression on that, and then send that to the main bus. So what you would do is you would add the insert for the precision limiter or something similar to that, and then also add, say, a bus compressor to the virtual channel, and then send that virtual channel to the main left and right. Now, I don't have those plugins, and they would cost a couple $100, and I'll be honest, I don't want to be testing that out for that amount of money. If anyone out there has this setup working and it works great, please direct me to a video or documentation or something that shows how to do this, because I'd be very interested, and it could be what sort of swings me over to go ahead for one of the bigger universal audio interfaces and use that for live streaming. And also with the effects that they have, I do have a small gripe here. You notice that when you go and you select your effects to be able to add in here, it shows you every freaking thing. It can we please have a checkbox only show what you've purchased? I know this is a big gripe. It's been out there forever. I know they know it. And I know that Universal Audio sees it as a way to possibly sell more stuff, because people have gas, wearing, you know, gear acquisition syndromes, and they're going to look at this and go, ooh, I wish I had that. So they're keeping it there. I know why they're keeping it there. We all know why it's happening. But it drives me freaking insane. I'm sorry. I like things nice and clean and precise and only showing what I have purchased. Okay, enough of that. That's just one of those little things that drives me a little crazy. But anyways, let's move on. Let's stay positive here. Okay. The other thing is with the plugins, they could be pricey. I would not, me personally, recommend paying full price for them. They do have sales, and those sales, especially around, you know, Black Friday, Christmas, and all that, you can get some really good deals on some of these. I've seen some, like something for $150, all of a sudden it's $30, you know, and that's reasonable. That's a good price. So yeah, sometimes you have to wait for their specials and be able to get that. But again, it's when you add up those one, you know, plug in here and there, it adds up to a big sum. And yeah, I would say I really like this interface. Me personally, I'm probably not going to upgrade unless I know certain things work a certain way and are streamlined, and it's all about getting rid of the tech in the background and focusing on the music. So again, wonderful interface, solid drivers. This is completely professional setup. I really like Universal Audio as far as how stable it is and the different features that you have. I wish there was some bus compression and limiting for live streams, and I hope that people develop for that, or possibly even create a whole new audio interface that's designed just for live streaming. That would be great. But again, I'm probably asking a lot. They could also add it within what they have right now. And they also have speaker modeling, which was it SonarWorks or I'm drawing a blank here for the actual name, but you can actually go in and change your like a speaker profile, and you can make your speaker sound like a different set of speakers, like NS10s or something like that, which helps for that. And that is on the master bus, so it's possible. And that I've heard it's very low latency, where it's, you know, it's something where you're not going to hear very much latency at all, which is great. So can we add a limiter and a bus compressor on there as well? Just give me a couple insert slots on that main bus, and keep the latency down if possible, or come out with new plugins that have very low latency. That would be awesome. So it's possible. Hopefully they actually look into this, and who knows? That's why I'm doing this. I'm going to put it out there for all you streamers out there. It's basically put out the features that we're looking for and see if someone notices, and then if they do, maybe a smart developer or engineer can design the perfect thing for live streaming. That would be great. And if you want to hear this interface, I do have a song called Ghost. You can go just onto my website, AfterAudio.com, and check that out. And I think if I remember right, I used the Neve preamp, and I can't remember exactly the compressor. I think it was the 1176, and the presets that they have for these plugins are great. You can go through and not have to worry about setting up everything yourself and doing it from scratch. Use their presets, do some minor tweaks, and you'll be happy. Again, Universal Audio, awesome stuff. I just had a couple requests out there, which would be nice if they'd add those updates for live streamers. And again, that's still recommend for many people, but I'll explain later on why I went with the interfaces that I decided to go with for live streaming. This is the XR Edit app for the XR18 Behringer digital mixer. This is a great device, especially for the price range. It has so many features that come with it. You can record full band if you wanted to. I was actually using this for live streams because it gives you everything that you need for total control. There's individual channel settings on here. There's a noise gate, EQ, compressor on every single channel. Here's the individual gate, which has a few basic presets: kick, snare, acoustic, vocal, and you can change all the different settings in there. EQ is a parametric EQ. You can set that for each of the bands here. High shelf, you can do a low cut on there if you want to, and you can save all of these. Real-time analyzer is built into it as well. Full metering for all the analog inputs, USB returns, everything. You can do headphone mixes with this. Like I said, this thing is very powerful for the price range. So the benefits for using something like the XR18 is that you have just really amazing DSP for live streaming at this price point. You have a bunch of effects that you can use. You can add insert effects as well, like you see here with the dual combinator for the multi-band compression, and you can send that to the precision limiter, which would boost up the gain but also protect the output for OBS. And in essence, you can create a concert stream using something like this. And again, the main problem is just the latency. It's just a little bit higher. We'll talk about that in a minute. Also, the in and outputs on here. You can see there's analog inputs. You can route any of these 18 inputs into any of the channels that you want to using this matrix. Super flexible. USB returns, do the same thing. You can route USB inputs and go into specific channels, which allows you to take you could set an application to a specific USB input and then route that to a channel on your mixer, and then that goes through all the processing here. Like you can do the channel processing, and then you can also do the main bus processing as well too. So USB sends here, this is how I guess this would be considered loopback function on here, where combining the USB returns with USB sends, you could send USB 1, USB 2 out to the main left and right. And that's pretty much what OBS needs. You need to have, it's sort of like hard-coded on there. You have to set it for USB 1, USB 2, just like chat software or video conferencing software. You can't really edit it, so you can only just use those two. And then for everything else, you can set it to all the other different USB outputs on there. But yeah, that allows you to use the bus effects on there as inserts. Ultranet's on here for headphone mixes if you want to do that. You can change the auxiliary outputs, and here's the main output as well. So with the combinator that you're seeing here, that is a 5-band compressor, emulates famous broadcasting and mastering compressors. And it says a highly complex processor. The combinator utilizes automatic parameter controls that produce stunning and audible results. Makeup gains for each frequency band will automatically be adjusted by the spectral balance control to maintain a balanced audio spectrum. And here is the stereo precision limiter. It's perfect for setting a precise volume limits, ensuring distortion-free and optimal signal integrity. Use the stereo precision limiter to boost quiet signals or reduce the level of hot signals to prevent clipping, inspired by the Sony Oxford Dynamics. So this is pretty awesome stuff. And like I said, at this price point, you're not paying extra for plugins. This is just all included, which I think that is great. Okay, so going over benefits again. Yeah, decent drivers, not quite good enough, let's say, for guitar amp simulation and virtual instruments like drums and keyboards and all. And it does have the limiter and bus compression on the main output bus for a great live stream sound. The drawbacks would be the higher latency for streaming and recording, which I've talked about before, and this affects recording in the box with guitar amp simulators, drum software, and keyboard virtual instruments. Now, there is the Behringer Wing that's out, and that is sort of the bigger version of this, and I'm actually looking into it and seeing if it's a bit overkill because of so many inputs and outputs. I think it's 24 mic channels on that one, but from what I'm reading, it does have slightly better latency because it uses USB 2.0, but it's just a newer USB connection on there. And I think the drivers are newer as well too. Also, it has bus compressor models. So that one has models like SSL. I think Neve was part of that list on there. There might be a couple other ones that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. But that's pretty awesome because those are the same bus compressors that I use within Reason, and then also I use the Ozone maximizer for the output, which is pretty much equivalent to what the precision limiter is, or very similar, I would say, overall. So yeah, that is a possible option for the future. So yeah, a streamlined Behringer audio interface with low latency that has all the digital mixer functionality of the Wing would be absolutely perfect for live streaming. So again, kind of looking at the Behringer Wing, but if they would come out with a different version of the Wing, like say a studio rack version that's designed just for studio, and then have a USB 3 connection on there, and again, I mean, you're not going to get better latency between USB 2 and 3 on there. You can have more channels, but really it's just about driver optimization. And if they can work their magic and shave off a couple milliseconds and get it to a reasonable amount, that would be awesome. That would be perfect. The next audio interface on this list might actually surprise people. It's the Line 6 Helix. I've been using the Helix LT for quite a few years. I think it came out in 2017. And it's an amazing guitar amp modeler that's out there. Now, the benefits for it would be it does have really nice guitar amp simulation on there. And one thing that I really like is that they have constant firmware updates and features. And they've added that years after the purchase. So I got this in 2017. We're at version 3.80. And if you're interested, I actually created a video just for that. It's a very short video, under 2 minutes, and it just highlights some of the new models that are out there, and did a full mix to it with addictive drums, which that's another video I made as well too. So basically, I'm just highlighting a lot of the tools that I use, this is another video for that, which goes over all the audio interfaces and gives everyone sort of a tour of each one. So when I was actually starting to live stream, and I was using the guitar processor for the Helix for playing along with some of the old tracks that I had, I was sitting there thinking, oh, I could use this as an audio interface as well too. And yes, you can. It's just the only problem with that is that the latency is high. So if you're trying to do virtual instruments, virtual drums, things like that, and also if you're trying to record, say, with Helix native directly, which is something I have a workaround, but it's something that I'm currently doing right now on a lot of my tracks. The latency is just too high with this interface, and it's better having a low latency interface, like, something that can handle better. I would say like the MOTU or the RME would be great. And I'll talk about the only problem I had with the RME and why I didn't actually go with that in a little while. But yeah, the Helix, absolutely amazing. It does so much. They constantly update it. I really love this device. I hope more companies, more software manufacturers, and more hardware companies out there, they constantly update it, because you know what? I mean, they get more sales out of it. It's a product that can last basically, years, and there's no reason why not to make something better. And the idea of listening to people's suggestions and adding certain things, and it's like basically you just make an amazing product that withstands the test of time, where you can actually shape it to what users are wanting. And I really feel that Helix is probably, I'd actually say it's probably the best example I can have of something that has stood the test of time, and it's just absolutely amazing, and I love it. And the only reason why I would switch would be to get something that has more processing power. Really, that's all I need. Everything else is exactly what I need, and also a updated USB connection on there, possibly like a USB 3 connection with updated drivers for low latency. That would be perfect. Now, a very popular interface for live streaming would be the RØDECaster Pro II. I actually purchased this one when it first came out and tested it out, and it is a great unit. It's so absolutely flexible. It's definitely built for live streaming. It has effects, really good effects in there. It has routing, which is getting better and better. I know they do virtual channels, a whole bunch of other stuff. But yeah, very super flexible options in there. And also, it's kind of like the Helix. They're doing consistent firmware updates, which I love that. You're making a product even better over time, and you're also kind of tailoring it for what the user is requesting and what they need. But there's so much you can do with this one. The main reason I tested it out for a while and had really good results, but then once again, getting to the latency thing, when I was doing, virtual drums and keyboards and guitar amps, it was when I was testing it out as with the Helix native plugin. I was trying to use this as the interface, and I noticed that the latency it felt really off. And I looked at the numbers on there, and I was like, wait, this actually looks fine. I think it was around 5 milliseconds, something like that, which that's perfect. That's actually great. But I did some more research into it, and turns out there was a couple other YouTube videos that were out there that sort of talked about the same issue. And what the problem is that yes, it's very flexible, but the reason why it's flexible is because it's running its own operating system on there. I think it's Linux based. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Let me know also if you know the details about all this. But yeah, I think it was the Linux operating system or something similar, or it's at least based on that. And that's what gives it the flexibility. You can do virtual things, virtual channels, all this other stuff. But what you're doing is you're adding a layer of complexity to this so that when the sound goes through, it goes through the converters, but it also has to go through the operating system just like a computer does. And that's basically, it's like running through two computers. You're running through the Rode operating system, and then you're running it through the computer operating system. So two layers of additional latency to it. So that's the thing. You really got to think about how many layers am I adding to everything for the flexibility. And the key to all this is to find some type of middle ground where, yes, you can have flexibility with a control or some kind of an interface that allows you to control everything. But then also you need to have it where it's streamlined, where the input can go through, just go straight directly to the CPU to get processed. And then that way the numbers aren't quite so high and everything feels a little tighter and right. I said a little bit of latency is not a problem. It's just like if you're playing in a band and you're 5 feet away from someone else, that's basically very similar or close to 5 milliseconds of latency. Once you're 10 feet away, you notice things feel a little bit off. It's like, I'm 10 feet away from that person. I can play with them, but not quite in time. Once you get 20 feet away, it's like they're in a different room. You're not going to be able to play tight with them. It's not going to feel right. So that's I actually have, there's a link down below for my website where I discuss in detail about latency and what the problem is with that. So yeah, the drawbacks would be the high latency because the audio is routed through the operating system, introduces a latency that is not reported by the DAW. So it's additional latency on top of what's reported. And also another thing I noticed is that it has a lower line output of 4 dBu compared to 20 dBu of other interfaces, which is similar to the XR18 and the Aero, which is the Apollo Solo now. Yeah, I was sitting there monitoring it, and I could look at the meters. I'm like, wow, they're a lot lower than my other interfaces. And yeah, I can turn it up to a certain amount, but I never could get it quite as loud. And when you're trying to monitor and trying to A/B between your monitors and different inputs and things like that, it's kind of distracting. So I checked in with their support, and their support's great, by the way. It's up there with MOTU. They actually handled everything very well, and I have a feeling that, hopefully they hear that other people are having issues with latency. The small percentage of guitarists that like to use guitar plugins to record and everything like that. But hopefully they can, if they come out with a version 3 or something like that, they can somehow improve it. Or what would be great is if it's something like RME, where you have sort of like presets or snapshots where you can have a snapshot for your stream where you're having all the effects, but you also can have a separate one that minimizes that, so you have a low latency snapshot or something. I don't know. I might be asking a bit for that, but I know it can be done. There's a lot of developers and engineers that are smart and can figure all this stuff out. Just make it work somehow, and also don't make it too complex. Make it so it's a button click away, and you can do exactly what you want to do. Which, like I said, it's hard to do that, but I'm sure someone can do it. And if they do, they're gonna be very successful with their audio interface, because they'll make a lot of people happy. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much my main story with this one. Super flexible. I love everything you can do with it. It even has master output effects that's by Aphex on there. And with that, it's like having a broadcast compressor on the main output. So I was very excited about that they had that included with this device as well too. But again, the only reason, and it's true, sound like a broken record here, but yeah, the latency was too high for me. So if they corrected this, I would have stuck with it, and I would have stuck with the XR18 as well too. But had to find an interface that worked out a little bit better, that had a little bit of everything. And yeah, none of these interfaces are perfect, but it'd be nice. Hopefully in the future there'll be something that's out there that will do exactly what I'm looking for. And I'm curious if anyone else here is trying to do the same thing, or if I'm the only one out there who cares about all this. Who knows? I don't know. But anyways, that's I'm kind of going through my whole spiel here, trying to give details about what I'm looking for, and I'm sure there's got to be other people that do live streams that are looking for this. So if you are one of those people, write a comment down there, because let me know who you are, and yeah, we can have a latency party and talk about how latency is destroying our workflows and all that kind of stuff. But okay, enough rambling about this one. Let's move on to the next interface. It's time to geek out. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure a lot of you knew this was coming. I was kind of waiting for this one, but yeah, RME. Where's RME? They're the ones with the best latency. They have awesome, amazing drivers. Yes, it has all that. There's one problem that I had with it, and I'll explain why it was a showstopper for me. And still could not find exactly why it's done this way. I have a feeling about it, which I'll talk about as well. But yeah, let's go over some of the benefits. I'd say the benefits would be probably as the best low latency performance. Again, I can't test it because I got close. I had this in my cart, but I didn't actually purchase it after I did some research. Solid drivers. Yes, they are known for having the best drivers that are out there. And it does have some basic DSP in there as well. So you can have EQ, dynamics, reverb, and delay. And that's one thing this has over the MOTU, does have delay in there. So yeah, you can get really good sound. You can use this as an actual mixer. It's not quite as flexible as, say, the XR18 Behringer or something similar. But yeah, it'll give you the basics of what you need. Here's one thing, is the snapshots, groups and workspaces on there. The snapshot was the one thing where you can save a snapshot of your settings, one for mixing and one for, like, say, live, one for live streaming, all things like that. There's different view modes in there, control room section, and yes, there is loopback. So loopback is on here. Now here's my problem with this, is that the TotalMix loopback functionality, it doesn't have virtual channels. So what happens is you lose the ability to record with your first two hardware channels, which are typically the mic 1 and mic 2 preamps during a live stream. Now for me, those are the ones that are usually on the front. You can plug directly into them. If I lost those, it's kind of like, I mean, this device, it's not cheap. It costs quite a bit. You are getting a lot out of it, but for some reason the loopback just doesn't have that option, where with the universal audio and with the MOTU, what you're doing is you're switching it where you're shifting everything down. Like basically you would have 1 and 2 as your USB send that will go into OBS, but then your mics would be on 3 and 4, and then so on with that, which for some reason they don't have that option. I have a feeling the reason why I was talking about layers of software and how everything's used to control certain features. I have a feeling that RME's their low latency performance is because everything is locked down. You can't do virtual channels. You're not doing things that have that flexibility that some of the operating systems or other applications that are out there have. So yeah, you get flexibility for one thing, but you lose some of that, the rock solid drivers, and you add additional latency to it. That's what I'm thinking is going on here. It'd be nice if someone could confirm it. Please leave a comment if you do know about this, or if you can find an explanation for it. I would love to know the story behind this one. But again, that's sort of just what I'm thinking could be a possibility. But yes, I almost had this device just because it seems so perfect. It has everything in there, but I didn't want to lose 2 mic channels. And I thought, if I'm paying this much money, I want to have, everything. And then later on down the line, if they do develop a unit that is more flexible, or if they engineer it a certain way so you don't lose your mic channels at the beginning by doing this, you can do it. But yeah, it has everything. And I was a little sad to not go with this device after hearing so many good things about it. And there's probably a lot of people that watch this that use it. And like I said, if you know that this is not an issue and that you don't lose your mic channels by using the loopback function, please let me know, because I might look into this device later on. They keep updating them as well too, and coming out with new versions. But they still, from what I've heard, they upgrade the firmware for the old versions as well too, so they keep those up to date. So yeah, RMA sounds like a great unit to have, but it's one of those that I didn't actually go with, and went with for now, the MOTU audio interface. Okay, here we are at the CueMix software, which is what controls the Ultralite Mark V that I'm using, and this also works with the 828 that came out recently. Very similar audio interfaces, and this is a good blend between some of the other interfaces. It's sort of like, between Universal Audio's, really good drivers, and also with the Behringer flexibility of the Behringer mixer. You can see here, let's go to the home tab. You can set your mic line instrument levels on here. You can set your phantom power. You can do A/B monitoring if you want to. Within the device section, there's loopback location. So it comes default USB-in 9 and 10, but you can change that to USB-in 1 and 2, which shifts all the inputs down. So when you select your mic, it'll be 3 and 4 for the microphone inputs instead of 1 and 2. But that allows you to route everything to OBS for recording, which is what I'm doing right now. And a couple different settings in here as well too. Here's your inputs, which you can do phantom power. You can adjust your gain. You can set to the USB host. You can do pre-effects or post-effects. So if you want to record with effects or not, you can do that as well. I do it without. I do like to hear it with the actual effects though. And then the outputs here, you can see loopback. You can adjust that to any of these other options on here, but I have it set kind of like the Behringer XR18 that I was using before this, but just take the main output of this and route that out to the loopback option. There's monitoring, which you can do multiple monitors, output trims for all of these. You could do, there's also an ADAT option on here, so I can add an extra 8 inputs or 8 mic channels or line channels to this if I wanted to. You do a separate headphone mix and a separate mix out from the different outputs, like line 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, and 10. And that's just nice for multiple mixes or for additional headphone mixes. But there is also the headphone mix that's built into this, which they have a headphone output on the front. And then here's the send for the reverb. But yeah, going back here to the main mic inputs here, you can add an EQ, parametric EQ, if you want to. And then for the mic channel itself, you can add compression, which you can see I'm doing here, and just a slight touch, little bit of compression here for the level control. And then one thing is with this is that the reverb, it does sound pretty good. Let's go to the reverb here. So you can set that to small, medium, or large, and you can adjust all the different settings for it if you want to. But the problem that I have with it is that when I mute the channel, the reverb is still on. So if I mute, which I'll do right now, and you might be able to hear a little bit of the reverb still coming through. But yeah, that's a problem. Oh wait, I was muting the reverb. Okay. So if I mute the microphone, you will still hear the reverb coming through just a little bit. And that's the problem, is that the reverb, it's more like you're sending everything to the reverb, and then the reverb goes out to the outputs. It's not really mixing it like a traditional send and return. And when you mute, a lot of times with the digital mixers, it'll mute everything. It'll mute the output for the reverb and also for the mic. But that's one thing that I talked with MOTU support, and they considered a couple different options where they might have it set where, say, if you mute the mic channel and you can link it to the reverb so that it'll mute that at the same time. But hopefully they would sort of set it up similar to what the XR18 is, and have it so that one mute handles everything. And the reason why that is like if I'm doing live streams and all that, a lot of times, you gotta cough, you gotta do this, you gotta do whatever, and you want to mute it. You don't want to have something like different audio that's happening in the background still happening. And that mute button's pretty important. Sometimes you stub your toe, you say a bad word, you gotta hit the mute button real quick and say what you gotta say, and then get back on stream. So it's pretty important. So this is a great option. Let me go over the benefits here. So, rock solid drivers. These are probably some of the best. RMEs I've heard is better, and that's something I did consider a while back. We'll talk about that later too. But low latency. I can get about 2 to 3 milliseconds at the 128 size buffer, which is great. And that helps with the timing for recording drums and the guitar amp simulation, routing the guitar through a guitar processor like the Helix Native or something like that. Has loopback functionality built into it, which is flexible as well too. And you get some basic DSP for compression and reverb, nothing too great, but it's something that they do have a little bit of room to grow with this because they're doing firmware updates. So who knows, maybe they'll add something along the line. I suggested to say, hey, can you put a limiter on the output, and that way it'd be good for live streams, or just something just to protect the output and allow you to boost the signal just a little bit. The mic preamp gain is plus 74 dB, which that's really good for mics which I'm using right now, like the SM7B, and allows you to not have to use a cloud lifter or something similar, some kind of a preamp booster or line level booster to get the signal up. Also, the line output of this one is 21 dBu, which other mixers, I think it was the RØDECaster II, that one had a much lower line output, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on there. It does have consistent firmware updates, which have been really nice so far. They've added some good extra features, and the support that I received has been absolutely amazing for this. The first unit that I received, it had a problem, and it would just crackle and pop, do all these crazy things like that. And I ended up troubleshooting. I was like, hey, look, I got a new Mac and it's fully loaded. This shouldn't be happening. And did some troubleshooting steps with it, and they figured out what it was, and I was able to send out my defective unit, and they replaced it for me, and the new unit's been holding up perfectly ever since. And the support that I had with it, they really know what they're doing. The actual support actually recorded videos of like things to suggest, which was nice because I could get a visual, instead of just the typical emailing back and forth. So yeah, they're great. They're absolutely great on there, and they do listen to suggestions as well too. So if you have suggestions for the CueMix, definitely send your suggestions to them, and hopefully they'll include that on a future firmware. I'm hoping that some of my suggestions get included, because this will make this the perfect live streaming solution for audio interfaces, because it really, like I said, it has the low latency, and if they included a limiter on the output, or compressor limiter or something similar to that to get that nice full sound, this would be awesome. So we'll see what happens with that. But the drawbacks would be the limited DSP, but that again can be improved with firmware updates. And the reverb again it's not a send effect, which is not ideal for live streaming when you want to mute the mic because the reverb is still being sent to the main output, which I covered that earlier. But overall, this is a great device, and I'm going to keep using it for a while. And I just hope that those firmware updates add some extra functionality. But yeah, this is really, can't say too many good things about this. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, I know I covered a whole lot here, but let's try and request features missing in current audio interfaces. I'd like to have something that's designed just for live streaming. Also, let me know if you have any suggestions of any other audio interfaces that I might have missed that are available that have all the features that were discussed during this whole thing. Let me know also big time if I missed anything important to you. Just, you know, let's say there's a lot of information here, a lot of different experiences that I had with different interfaces and all, and I wanted to cover everything. So maybe it'll help you make an informed decision about what you're doing if you're trying to get into live streaming. And who knows, maybe this video be seen by a company or a developer or engineer or someone that's able to design and build an audio interface with all these features that I've been talking about. What is your perfect audio interface? Let me know in the comments down below if you have something that you're looking for that works for you. Let's see. Also, the main thing is I want to see an audio interface that's designed for music artists that embraces live streaming, because live streaming is here, and there could also be future mediums that are used to express people's art. And I see live streaming as something that's being used, but not everyone is really doing it. And if there was something that was really simple, streamlined, and just you didn't have to think about the tech, it worked and it did exactly what you're doing, and it gave you a professional sound. Again, asking for a lot here, but I know it can be done. And I'm just hoping that it'll happen sometime in the near future, because I like to get going with that if possible. Also, if you'd like to support my work, please go to AfterAudio.com. I have all my music up there, and there's a lot of examples that are in here that I have a couple songs. My song Ghost was used. I used the universal audio for that. The MOTU device, I'm actually working on a whole bunch of current streams right now. I use that for pretty much everything right now. And yeah, a lot of these interfaces I've been using for a while. Helix does all my guitar stuff as well. And the big thing is here is I hope this helps you create and make more music. And I hope this, like I said, we want to get the tech out of the way. We want to focus on what's important, and that is you making music and continuing with that and expressing our art and everything else. So yeah, that's about all I have. It was a whole lot, but it was a whole lot, but it was fun, wasn't it? Dorking out, geeking out to this stuff. Yeah, I kind of, yeah. It might have been a bit much, but hey, I don't care. I'm having fun here. So I hope you had fun too. Take care, everyone. I'll see y'all later. Bye.